Hi, I'm Dr. Sylvia Peregrino, and this is Entre Nosotras, Latina Voices. Today, I have a treat for you. I have members of the League of Women Voters of El Paso, and they're going to be sharing some important information with you about the upcoming elections. Welcome, panel. Thank you for being here. If we could maybe go and introduce each other, or introduce yourselves so that we can have our conversation. Welcome, Ms. Carol.
My name is Carol Wallace, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm currently the president of the League of Women Voters of El Paso, and we are 100 strong plus growing. So we would like to invite all the members of our community who are interested in voting and voting rights and other important issues to join us.
Welcome.
My name is Betty Ann Halliburton. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of El Paso, and I work on the board, and my primary duty is to decorate for all the events.
Great.
I'm Alyssa Cervantes Benavides. I'm also a board member of the League, and my responsibility, aside from just being a member and collaborating with all of our members, is voter registration.
I'm Ramon Benavides. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of El Paso, proud member, and my job is to really try to get our younger students, high school students and college students and university students to go out and vote and register to vote.
And Mr. Benavides, I understand that you also are very famous here in the community and across the state of Texas. Could you?
Yes, I'm the 2022 Texas Teacher of the Year. I'm a teacher at Del Valle High School of the Isleta District, and I was won the District Teacher of the Year, went on to the Regional Teacher of the Year here at Region 19, and moved on and was a finalist with Texas and interviewed, and finally was crowned 2022 Texas Teacher of the Year a year ago. It's going on a year. Mm-hmm.
What an honor for us to have the Texas Teacher of the Year on our show, and thank you for all your efforts. So tell us about what the League of Women Voters does locally. Tell us a little bit about the history.
Well, the history, the way the League of Women Voters started was in passing the 19th Amendment back in 1919. And we were really suffragists at that time. They were called suffragists. And it grew. But in El Paso, there was also a local organization called the League of Women Voters of El Paso that we just celebrated our 100th anniversary in 2019. And we were recognized by both the county and the city and given honors for that. Our work, we are a nonpartisan group that is tied to voting and voting rights. And so our work, as you can see, we have a very diverse population of members, and it's very inclusive. And we are so proud that we have men in our group too. And in fact, in some of the leagues in Texas, the league presidents are male. So we want to encourage everyone who is interested in voting rights. Like I said, we are non-political. We do not support candidates or parties, but we support issues like voting rights, women's rights, health rights, etc. And immigration in El Paso, that's a very important issue, immigration rights.
What's your role as board members, since Ms. Benavides and Ms. Halliburton are board members?
Well, when our president tells us where the voter registration is, then I show up because I want to be registered. I want to encourage as many people to vote as possible.
A good amount of us are voter deputized for voter registration. So we provide outreach to the organization via particularly school outreach. So I've personally reached out to all of the schools in the El Paso area, high schools, to our principals to ask them if we can go out to host tables. We have all of our volunteers like Betty and Jesus Valdez who go out and provide voter education to the students, and they also make sure that they register them to vote. We've been able to get a couple hundred students registered within the past couple of weeks, so it's been really exciting. We also host tables at EPCC here, so we've been lucky to do that. A good amount of deputized volunteer registrars were able to do that, and we've also been out to UTEP. Hopefully we can expand our efforts. We're always available, so we hope that we're able, people reach out to us and let us know, and that they'd like us to go out and have a table at their place of employment or school. They could, DM us on social media, send us an email. We're always ready to go out.
And so they can find you on Facebook and on the webpage?
Yes, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also have a website, lwvep.org. And we're, if you Google us, we're there too, but those are our three main areas that you can find us.
Right. And we want to remind everyone that October 11th is the deadline for voter registration. So if you're not registered by that time and you're qualified, you won't be able to vote in the November 2022 election. So that's been our big push. But we're very happy that at EPCC, the Valle Verde campus, during National Voter Registration Day, we registered 81 voters.
And every vote counts. Some elections come very close, so it's great to get young people interested in voting, and maybe recent U.S. citizens who maybe haven't voted in the past. Mr. Benavides, can you discuss some of the voter registration efforts you've conducted?
It's been at the high school. We started off with at Del Valle High School. We got, I think it was like in May, we started the whole process. It was like a pilot process, and we were able to get close to about 60 registered voters there from our high school, and that's where it grew. And now it's expanded to all the high schools. I believe Isleta so far has had all the high schools participate in this voter registration push that we have. And I'm pretty excited about that, pretty proud of part of our district. And now we're hoping that the other districts can jump on, if not now, maybe in the future, and trying to get our students to be aware of what's out there, the voter registration. But not only that, it's not only about voter registration, it's about being informed and being on top of what's out there, whatever they believe in, whatever their convictions are, whatever their foundation is it's good to have it, but it's best to express it, and the best way to express it is by voting. And that's what I share with my kids and any kids I speak to about it. Because I also teach. I'm a part-time adjunct at El Paso Community College at EPCC. So that's what I share with my kids. If you're not registered, go and vote. This is the only way you'll be heard. And we can speak all we can, and we can try to do all we can. But if you don't go out there and vote, you won't be heard. So that's what I share with our kids.
And I also teach government as well. So I think that's great. As long as we can encourage more people to participate, to get involved, to learn about the candidates. Can you tell us a little bit about the resources that the League of Women Voters provides?
Well, I'm glad you asked, we have two big platforms that we use. One is called Voter's Guide, and it's both in printed form, which we've ordered 200 in English and 200 in Spanish for this upcoming election. And in the Voter's Guide, it's all the state candidates and national candidates. And it gives information, questionnaires are asked of them, and then it's put into that format. And I've shared that with you all. So if you're interested, we have it also in PDF form that can go to the local communities. We also have vote411.org, which I have right here on this little lapel. If you go to that and Google it and type it in, it will give you a list of all the candidates that are running locally, if they have filled out the form. Now, Pat White, our treasurer, actually inputs all of that information, and I don't know if it's available yet. We're trying to get someone to do the translation for us, and I'm working on that so that we can have it in Spanish also.
That's great, and so we'll go ahead and put links to that information so that people can do it. What do voters need to know when they show up on election day or during early voting, which starts on the 24th all the way to November 4th? What do they need?
Well, before they register to vote, they must have a valid driver's license, and they must be 18 before the first day of the election. And if they registered something like 50 years ago, they probably need to register again. What they need when they show up is they need a valid driver's license. There are other forms of communication, but we'll let them know then, or how to identify themselves if they don't have one. They will be asked to show their ID, and you will be given a card that will go to the voter machine, and then you will be able to select your candidates based on where you live in your precinct. And you can vote anywhere in El Paso. You don't have to wait to vote at a certain location, because now it's all computerized, and you can vote in any place that says vote here or vote aquí.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And just to add to that, one of the things I want to bring up is one of the questions for high schoolers is, I'm not 18 yet. And one of the things that remember, as long as they're 18 before election day, they could register to vote. So I had several students, oh sir, I don't want to register because I'm not 18 until the end of October. Well, you can still register as long as they're 18 before the election day. They can still vote, they can still register to vote.
And if there's questions about whether or not you have an active voter registration, if you don't remember if you signed up for it, you can go to epcountyvotes.com and enter in your first and last name and your date of birth, and it'll show you if you have an active voter registration on file.
And if they don't, would they need to fill out another voter registration form?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. If it's in time. If they can't do it until it's after October 11th. But something that's very important for them to know is that the information that is on your voter ID has to be the same as your Texas driver's license. So, and that's one of the problems with the new law that was passed. A lot of people don't remember, if you registered 50 or 60 years ago, which I did, you're supposed to put your original form in there. And this is happening to a lot of senior citizens who are voting early or vote by mail. There is a new way for them to fill that out. And if you go to League of Women Voters of Texas or League of Women Voters of El Paso, there are videos on how to fill out that form correctly so that it doesn't come back. I think it was like 19% of those that were mailed in last time weren't counted because they were missing a signature. You have to put your signature in 3 different places. So they've made it a little harder, and we're fighting that. That's one of the things that the league does, is we've got the League of Women Voters of Texas actually has lawsuits in Austin trying to help us to get our voting rights down right.
And I think that's a concern for seniors. Like my mother-in-law doesn't drive anymore, and so she does have her current state ID, but mobility is an issue for her. So to be honest, I don't know if I can request a ballot for her.
You can call the El Paso County Elections Office, and it's epcountyvotes.com. You can either go to that website, and it will give you the information on how to contact the elections office. And if you have any questions, we have a great executive administrator, Lisa Weiss, her staff is amazing, and they help voters, but it has to come in the required form. And I just want to point out that the last day to apply for a ballot vote by mail is October the 28th, and it must be turned in it has to be in the elections office by November the 8th.
But like you mentioned, with the right format,
and they try to send it back right away, but sometimes with the mail and everything, and then they were allowing you to drive to because now the state has only one drop off, and that's at the county office, and so. It makes it difficult for senior citizens, and not just senior citizens, but disabled voters too, because they're the ones that can't go to the polls sometimes, like you're saying. They have mobility issues, and so they need to vote by mail. So we need to simplify it so that all votes count.
And now They have a curbside voting, so that if there's people with mobility issues, they can be brought up to the voting site, and then they have a registration machine that's mobile, that can be taken to the car, and then they can put in their choices over the window of the car. So they can request that at each voting site.
There's also another option too. So my mom was very concerned when she saw how confusing it was, that she was going to complete her ballot by mail incorrectly. So the other option is I just took her with me. You do need to have your vote by mail ballot with you. So she turned that in, and then she was able to vote. Of course, that doesn't apply to those that aren't able to physically. But if y'all are having any questions about whether or not you're doing it right, you can take it to the site, the poll site, and they'll be able to help you. But really, the El Paso County Elections Office is very readily available. I've tested it. I've called, and somebody always answers the phone to answer your questions.
And I want to add to that, I've gone in person a couple of times, and the first time I went in there, I had 101 questions, making sure I wanted to do the voter registration correctly since I'm deputized. And I had them there, and I was asking question after question, and they were there, so nice and helpful. And they're always, like they said, they're always going to be available to help. And don't be, and what I want people to know is not to be afraid to call them, because they may think that they're going to put me on hold, or even walking in. I walked in a couple of times. They make the time to help you out, and they'll explain everything to you so where you'd understand it.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that to vote by mail, you have to either be over 65 or show that you're going to be out of town during the early voting period and on election day.
You can also, if you're disabled, you can request a vote by mail. So those are the three categories: 65, disabled, or like a student, like my granddaughter in Arizona, she's going to vote by mail also. But they have to make the application first, send it in before October the 24th, and then the elections office, I would recommend them doing it as soon as possible, because it's available on the website for EPCCountyVotes.com, and fill it out there, and then as soon as they receive it, put it in the mail as soon as possible. But make sure that it's signed in those three places: first on the form, then on the first envelope, and then on the outside envelope. So there's, it's a little tricky. So
it's a little complicated, and it's new. So maybe as people get used to it, they'll be more savvy.
But like I said, 19% in the last election were disqualified because they didn't have all of the information.
So that could make a difference in a close election.
Of course it can.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to dissuade, those that are able to go to the polls. Like Betty was saying, the polls are everywhere. And if you want to find your closest location, you want to go to EPCountyVotes.com. They'll show you all of the open voting sites. It really is an easy process. For our students, for us, we literally go in, and I haven't had to wait for the past couple of years. I literally go in. It's a 5-minute process. And you really do feel good when you leave with that sticker saying that I voted and you participated in something that's really important and had a voice.
I just wanted to add, for example, I work out at Del Valle High School, and I did it within my lunch hour. We have 30 minutes for lunch. I went out to this voter place in Socorro, the elementary, near an elementary. Went in, came back to work, and everything was done within 15 minutes. So there's a lot of locations where you can go and place your vote the day of, or even during early voting.
And so what I tell my students is that if you do wait till election day, which is November the 8th, that they have to go to either one of the county-wide voting places or to their precinct.
Well, they can vote anywhere now.
They can vote anywhere?
They can vote anywhere that is a legitimate voting location, and they can find that, because I used to vote at Bonham, and it closed, and I was going, where do I vote? And they said, you can vote anywhere. So you just look it up in EPCountyVotes.com. Also, Vote 411 will tell you the voting location. So you have access to wherever you are. If you can vote near your work, you can vote near your parents' home if you want to take your parents. So we're encouraging everyone to vote. And another thing that I'd like to point out, when students register, and I provided this, we have a little pledge card that says, I pledge to vote. I will vote in the next election to stand up for what matters most to me, my family and my community. And then the student or the voter puts their name, and then they give us their email, their cell number, and their home address, and we will send out reminder cards prior to early voting where to vote, and that we're going to have to organize that. So
And why, you know, you're doing this not getting paid. You're doing this as volunteers. Why is it important? Why do you care?
Well, it's important to me because when I was in 6th grade, we were taught about voting, and we were told it was our civic duty. Well, I feel like there's a lot of people that gave their lives. They were beaten. They protested so that we would have the right to vote. So I feel like it's my civic duty to go to the polls and cast my ballot for the candidate of my choice. I also was taught that you look at the person's qualifications and their platform, and you vote for the person. So I wasn't taught anything about party. So now I look at the person and I go, which one would be the best person to choose for this job? So even though we don't have a straight party ticket like I did when we were in 6th grade, you could just go in the machine and pull a lever and walk out. Well, we don't have that option anymore. We have the option to choose the candidate that we think is best for the job. So to me, it's my voice to the local and national election. Local, state, and national.
I think for me, I'm sorry, Carol.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
It really is fundamental to me. My just, you know, when I was younger, my mom used to take me to the polls. So it was like building that generational habit of making sure that you're civically engaged. One of the reasons why I became an instructor here at EPCC and government was for that reason too. I think it's really important for us to help connect our next generation of voters, and hopefully our current generation of voters, how important it is to vote by explaining to them that every part of our lives is connected to who is representing us politically. And so, you know, if we, you know, you're talking about what you know, you're bringing up some, you know, the women's rights, immigration. Every single aspect is really affected by who is really representing us and making those decisions at the political level. And we have a say so. And that's why, you know, if we make an informed decision, we look it up on 411 or on the county website and look at their platforms and really do our part to bring in the representatives that we believe are the best for the job. I think that, you know, it's us being involved in the decisions that are affecting us every day.
Yeah, one of the coolest things about the League of Women Voters, it's nonpartisan. So that's one of the reasons I jumped on right away, because you don't have to go in and try to sway people to vote a certain way. You just go in and get them to register to vote, and that's exciting in itself. Seeing the kids, I remember being 18, it was back when, you know, Clinton was running for office, and I couldn't wait to go and just to register and go. And I just want kids to get excited about it. And being nonpartisan, this is the cool thing about it. You just go in there, you just want them to get out there and vote and show their voice. Doesn't matter who they go for, but as long as they're well informed and they express and they show themselves, or they're heard through their voting process, that's exciting for me.
And Carol, you wanted to add something?
Well, I'd like to go back to our motto. The motto of the League of Women Voters is empowering voters, defending democracy. And unfortunately, right now, there's so much division that our democracy is at risk. And this is one way, even though we don't get paid, you know, we fight for those rights. Because in 1968, I was a rump delegate in Chicago, so I was at the Chicago convention during all the riots and everything. So I'm giving away my age, I know. I was very young at that time, but you know, it's just stayed in my blood, and that's why I'm very proud to be part of this League of Women Voters, because of their philosophy, because of their impetus to voting and what it means to everyone.
I think, we've heard a lot of good comments and encouragement to vote. I hope that our audience decides to take you up on it, either to register to vote, and can they contact you all if they're having an event to have voter registration?
Right. If they go to lwvep.org, they can see the website, or they can also contact us at lwvep@lwvep.org, and that comes to me or to Pat White, and we'll answer your questions.
And social media too at the same. It's
Yes.
LWV El Paso on Instagram and on Twitter as well.
Facebook.
And on
Facebook.
Facebook, it's League of Women Voters of El Paso.
Of El Paso. And so we're coming to the end of our show. It seems like it's gone by really
The time
fast.
flies when you're having fun.
But are there any closing thoughts that you would want to leave the audience with?
We're 100 members and growing. We want to invite everyone to look at our Facebook page, Instagram, or our web page. And Alyssa is our webmaster, so she and Pat put together a fantastic platform. So.
And from what I can see, you're an open organization.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to add. Man, don't be afraid to join. I remember when my wife reached out. I jumped right in. Back to the whole nonpartisan thing. That was good for me, and also their motto, what they stand for, the League of Women Voters. That in itself, empowering people to vote and for voter rights. That in itself is just solid. And I love that.
We do have a lot of events that we put on that I think are super exciting. So we'll bring in panelists. We have parties. So it is we really welcome. We're very inclusive, and we welcome all members. So we hope that they contact us, and really particularly there's so much opportunity for our younger generation that are turning 18 to become involved. So we want them to come out and see what it's all about. But we're ready and willing to embrace them.
Right. We had a great Women's Equality Day event back in May. Was it May? And it was fantastic. And it was here at EPCC.
And I went because one of my friends invited me, and that's where I learned a little bit about all the efforts that you're doing locally. So I remember that it was a wonderful panel, and you had a lot of first of women that are doing good things in our community. So
One final plug.
Sure.
We're if anyone wants to contribute, we're going to be part of El Paso Giving Day, which starts in a few days. I'm going to be posting some information on the website, or I'll send it to Pat and to Alyssa. And please contribute to the League of Women Voters of El Paso. We're nonpartisan, but we're here for everyone. And we want to encourage everyone to vote, because every vote counts.
And I think that's a wonderful way to end. Panel, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work that you're doing with for El Paso. And remember, it's important to vote, because when they're deciding for resources at the state and federal levels, they look at voter turnout as well. So it can benefit all of us in our community, regardless of who you vote for. So thank you, panel, for being here. I'm Dr. Sylvia Peregrino, host of Entre Nosotras, Latina Voices. You can find us on YouTube as well if you've missed some of our previous shows. And please encourage everybody to register to vote. And now you know that there's groups in our community that will help you out. And we'll put a link to all those fantastic resources that they shared. Thank you, panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.